Welcome to The Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by Tacos, a meal that lets you eat the plate. Now, let's dim the lights and start the show.
Welcome everybody to The Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by Buds, the management program to manage the most precious resource of all. Sign up to be a bud of bud with Buds. Welcome everyone to The Pestle. I am Wes.
And I'm Todd.
And we're filmmakers, and we make things, and then we review movies to see what we can see about how they made things. And yeah, what we can learn about the filmmaking process, as the man said in that fancy voiceover introduction. Those are always fun to write. I try to use them as a way to be, I don't know, funny, but also drop, some of my secret commentary, which is the fun thing about writing, which has lost a little bit of its invisibility, is the ability to say something about the world while using other people's mouths to do it.
Nice.
That's really fun. Like, it's more and more people are, and this is getting harder to do because of, one, how lazy people are and how they write, because it's so much more, I think, modern writing is straw man argumenting. Like, if you have a view that you want to get out, I think the healthy way to do it is to give a steel man argument, right? The idea that I'm going to make someone else's case, the one that I disagree with, I'm going to make it the case as strong as it can be before I rebut it with my own thoughts and views. And people aren't doing that as much anymore. Now people just, set up these straw man opinions that are so easy to knock down. And whenever you do that, people get mad at the writer. They're like, that was, annoying and irritating. And so the ability, though, to actually say something important about the world, which is, I think, one of the great things about, storytelling, is you can do that in a very well-rounded, respectful way that takes into account worldviews that are separate from your own. And so, yeah, I really love that aspect of writing, is if you're doing it well, you can make someone else's argument and also reveal why there's flaws, or there's another way. Maybe there aren't flaws. Maybe what they're saying is right, but maybe it's also not the ultimate thing that matters. You can do both. You can say, man, what you're saying isn't wrong, but there's something else that I think is more important to consider. And so, yeah, I like writing our little intros because it's a way for me to crack a joke, usually at, someone else's expense, but hopefully in a way that is also just amusing and not necessarily meant to be the final word, the final dictate. And that's why it's the opening and not the closing. We usually like to close on, a quote that you and I will reflect on in some manner. And I think that's always a better way to end. I think when you're storytelling, starting with something big and bombastic and maybe not nuanced is fine, as long as you find a way to find the nuance by the end of your story that leaves people with space to ruminate. Anyway, I don't know where all that came from. As usual, our intros are not thought out ahead of time. But by all means, weigh in on the ideas presented before you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that right now it's especially right now, it's really important to I don't know, find ways to connect with people that have differing views, differing worldviews. Why can't we live in peace? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love what you said about like the strong man argument instead of the straw man argument. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why some of the villains that I love so much, why I love them. Like Thanos is probably one of my favorite villains of all time. Mm. And the reason is because I understand. I don't agree with him, but I understand his motivation. They did such a good job writing him as a creature that you should be able to look at and understand, even if you don't agree with, that you can't help but like think that he is so powerful, and he's powerful because of his motivations. And I can see that, like he really believes he's going to save the universe. He really truly believes that. And I think there's something to that, like he thinks he's good. And the writing convinces us that he thinks he's good. it's so powerful. You're spot on with that. Like it, and it's like, it makes me think of, I'll say this and I'll stop. It makes me think of, when you're driving, everybody has this, when you're driving and you feel like, man, I just want to pull into oncoming traffic, and you never do, right? But like you have that, there's just like this one little moment, this pull. It's like someone like Thanos is that constantly pulling into the other oncoming lane. But maybe it's to save a child he thinks he's going to hit. Like he really believes this is the right thing to do. And I think that like writing can do so much. It can really make you question what you think is real or what you think is true and right.
I love that. Yeah. And there's and what's so satisfying and scary about that kind of character is how clear-eyed they are about all the devastation they're wreaking. It's not emotional.
Great point.
It's calculated, and that makes it so much worse because you're right. Like we can see and understand his philosophy, but it's also demonstrated through his character and his actions. Like he doesn't take joy in the killing. He just sees it as necessary. And makes for a very interesting experience. Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head there. It's not emotional. Like those are the villains to watch out for, that are just calm and collected and just
No Country.
Go.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
No Country is the perfect example.
Ever
and
since
it's so funny.
Covered that, man, I keep going. I've watched it so many times, and it's stuck with me. I'm so glad we covered it.
I am. Me too. And it's interesting because like the moment that you see emotion from them, they disappear as like a villain. They're just a human. Okay. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like they lose their power when they show emotion. Like those kinds of villains that are emotionless. But wow. Yeah. Anyway, it was a good start.
So anyway, that's modern times, I guess. Let's go back in time, bro. What are we looking at?
Today we are covering Troy from 2004. So the one with Brad Pitt. So if you haven't seen this film, please pause this episode and go watch it. Because if you don't know the Odyssey, we're going to spoil a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we are. We're going to, where am I? We're going to take a look at a couple of things at least. Touch on a little bit of the cinematography, talk about scale, and we'll also dive into some of the story and writing, talk about themes, war, love, immortality, and maybe even the secret power of art and other such stuff and things and stuff.
And a quick synopsis of the film. In the year 1250 BCE, Greek armies launch 1,000 ships to fight Troy in this retelling of the Trojan War. It's directed by Wolfgang Petersen, screenplay by David Benioff, based on the poem by Homer, cinematography by Roger Pratt, featuring Brad Pitt as Achilles, Eric Bana as Hector, Brian Cox as Agamemnon, Brendan Gleeson as Menelaus, Diane Kruger as Helen, Orlando Bloom as Paris, Rose Byrne as Briseis, and Peter O'Toole as Priam. What a stacked cast,
That's
man.
not even everyone. Like it's
Yeah, I know.
fucking nuts.
What you say is true. I've wronged you. I've wronged our father. If you want to take Helen back to Sparta, so be it. But I go with her. To Sparta, they'll kill you. Then I'll die fighting. Oh, and that sounds heroic to you, doesn't it? To die fighting. Tell me, little brother, have you ever killed a man?
No.
Ever seen a man die in combat?
No.
I've killed men. And I've heard them dying. And I've watched them dying, and there's nothing glorious about it. Nothing poetic. You say you want to die for love, but you know nothing about dying, and you know nothing about love.
All the same, I go with her. I won't ask you to fight my war.
You already have. To Troy! Out ship! Set sail!
Okay, man.
Great scene.
Dude. So, I don't know, when was the last time you think you watched this? And what do you think? I mean, I don't want to let Nolan steal the show. That would actually do great disrespect to Wolfgang Petersen. But there is another Homer film on the horizon. And a lot's changed in the last 20 years since this came out, as far as filmmaking technique and style in a lot of ways, good and bad. So yeah, revisiting this, what do you think? Does it hold up, or did you ever like this in the first place?
Yeah, I liked it. Brad Pitt can't do any wrong. Like, he's just perfect at everything he does. Screw that guy. But, so yeah, I it's been probably a decade since I've seen this movie. A lot of it holds up. Some of it doesn't. But I'm thoroughly, I'm pretty engaged for most of the time. There is some, kind of like just lulls in the story, I think, that they fill in with, what's her name? The prisoner woman.
Oh, Rose Byrne, Briseis.
Rose Byrne. Yeah. Thank you. That Rose Byrne plays. They fill that in. That always feels a little bit weird. But I get it. It's to like humanize Achilles, right? It's like to remind you that he's a killing machine, but he's also a human, like a person, nonetheless. And I do think that there are some really good decisions here. And like, first off, let's say the scope and scale of this film is gigantic. It's just, basically, like, this was 22 years ago. You take that and then add 20 years to what is possible in film, and then I have no idea what to expect from the Odyssey, but I expect a lot. This was already gigantic. The shots of the giant fleet, of ships, and the huge wall of Troy, and all the entire city of Troy as it's burning, like, just massive. The Trojan horse, like, just everything is so big that it's kind of hard to get your mind around. So, and there's a lot of stories happening. And so I think that the writing was really strong in order to keep us straight of who is who. I think the casting was really strong too. And the directing was really, really great. What else has Wolfgang done? A lot, right?
That's a murderer's row of films you're looking at. starting with Das Boot. Never Ending Story. I don't know. It's a very big list. Yeah. He's done everything.
Well,
yeah.
He's fantastic. I think that we hit like moments that we needed to hit and stayed there. Like when Hector dies and they had the scene of, burning his body, we hang there for a while, and we spend a lot of time there. And then Achilles gets the same treatment at the end when his body gets burned. And he also gets I love the scene of him getting emotional over Hector when he's giving him back to his father. That was really, honestly, it's probably my favorite moment in the entire film. Yeah. When he just has this one moment of breaking down and he collects himself, And
why do you think, I love that moment? I put a note for myself to ask you, but since you brought it up, if I can interrupt your train of thought for 1 second, like, why do you think he cried right there? What was happening in Achilles at that moment? That was right after Priam, which is Hector's father, comes to him in the middle of the night to beg him for his son's body back. And Achilles wants a moment to himself with Hector, and he goes out there and he weeps over him, says, "I'll see you again, my brother." What do you think? Why is he crying there? What is so upsetting to him?
Man, that's a great question. And I remember thinking that too, watching it. Like, why exactly is he crying? And I think it's a lot of things. I don't think it's one thing. I think it's one, he hates his king. It's not his king, but he hates the king he's fighting for. Two, he has a lot of respect for Hector. He knows what Hector is about. Hector is about defending his city and defending what he believes in. And he's a very good fighter. And I think that Achilles knew that as he's fighting Hector. He knew, he's like, okay, this guy is the real deal. I still have to kill him, but he's the real deal. And then also his father Priam coming to beg for his son's body, not caring if he dies. You know, like he made such a great case for giving Hector back to him. And that's something that Achilles didn't have. You know, he didn't have that growing up. He didn't have that love. I mean, his mother even, he has that scene with his mother. She's like, you can live, you can not go and live and be forgotten, or you can go and die and be remembered for thousands of, what kind of mother says that? You know, he did not have that. And then you know, he's sitting there with Priam and Priam is saying, I loved him from the moment he opened his eyes to the moment you closed them. That line got me, you know, and Peter O'Toole, my God.
Yeah.
So I think, and then I think all of that, and he doesn't enjoy killing. I mean, he does enjoy winning, but I know that, like, he has that moment with Briseis where he says, like, where he breaks down a little bit and he talks about like killing and how he knows these are fathers, these are sons, you know? So I think all of that together comes to a head when he looks at this guy who's like the only guy that can compete with him that he killed, you know? I mean, even the guys that follow him, he knows they can't compete with him.
Yeah.
But Hector could. So, I mean, that's what I think.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's all of that. It's he's never going to have another worthy opponent. Like, this is the best he ever fought, is what he tells him whenever he hands over the body. And in that way, he felt kindred, right? He called him brother, but I also think he's calling him brother because he wishes he had had the same family, that he could have grown up under these circumstances. And all to your point about, like, even his mom is like, yeah, you can play it safe and have love and a family and be forgotten, or yeah, you can go die and live forever and name. And so, yeah, I think it's bitter. It's a bitter sweetness of, he would have been happier having never witnessed what he witnessed in Hector and Hector's father. And I think that bitterness of seeing what was possible that he never got to have, combined with everything you're saying, or elucidating on it, like, yeah, I agree. It's all those things. And then on top of that, you add in Briseis, you know, who's revealing something else to see about life that he never thought possible. Because when we see him the first time, he wakes up next to two naked women and he just kind of flops their hands away and he runs off to war. Like, they were clearly just a hookup. Like, that wasn't love there. But suddenly he met someone who has his same, so there's all this possibility that he's weeping over. I think it's all just swirling and it's overwhelming. It's just all overwhelming, because in that moment watching it every time, I'm like, you can't point to one thing. It's just like, it's overwhelming. Too many things. Yeah. And
then as Priam is about to ride away, he says, you're a better king than the one that leads this army. You know, because he stands for something. And this other king just wants to, you know, destroy everything. And then also, I think that Achilles knows, he's like, I don't want to destroy Troy. I don't want all of these people to die, you know, but they are going to die. It is going to happen, you know, and there's nothing that he can do to stop it. So there's probably a little bit of that too. Yeah. Anyway, one thing I will say, well, a couple things. The first thing is Legolas or Orlando Bloom. I did that on purpose. Did you get one of them? I just love that he's a bow and arrow guy. Yeah. He's just like the forever bow and arrow guy. Paris is so annoying. Like, God dang it, man. He's such a little bitch. Like he causes the war because he can't do without this woman's love, which I know is Helen, and the most beautiful woman on the planet. I get it. But he causes the war, drags his brother into it. His brother ends up fighting and dying for him because he's too big of a coward to do it himself. And then he ends up killing Achilles instead, even though Briseis is like begging him not to, and because he's just trying to save Briseis. And I understand he has to. He's at war. It's Troy. But like the whole thing as a story, watching this in the movie, I'm like, oh, another reason to hate this guy. Jeez, it's so annoying. But I think that that's important, and I think you had to hit the heel aspect of Achilles at some point. Why not it be Paris? Because Hector is gone. And then the other thing is I didn't like the music. I thought that the music took me out of it a lot, where I just like noticed it. It was just always there. When it wasn't there, it was fantastic. The fight between Achilles and Hector was
I was going to ask, I was like, you better like that, whatever you believe about the rest of the score, fine. But that score in that fucking fight, whoo.
The score in the fight is great because there's no score. It's just quiet.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
There's
it
a
is.
score there. There's drums. There's all kinds of shit happening in there.
No, there's like a big silence section.
Nope.
What? We're
Nope.
watching the same movie?
Are we?
Oh.
Let's see. I'm pulling it up right now.
Well, you sent it to me, so yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have it up.
I bet I click. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right.
There's all kinds of music happening here.
It's 90% drums.
Is that not music? Are we not calling
No, it
drums
is.
music anymore?
It is. I just.
Okay.
I guess that's why I liked it. I guess then because there was no. I don't know. When I say music, I mean like notes. Like swirling and everything. I just thought that there was a lot of it, and it took me out of it a lot. And I guess because of the drums, I could just pay attention to the action that was happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wasn't a big fan of it for the most part. Especially at the end, I was like, "This is so cheesy," and maybe I'm spoiled with the last 15 years of incredible scores. Not maybe, I definitely am.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah,
Hans Zimmer has wrecked everyone.
Yeah, he's
and
been wrecking everyone.
Ludwig has been just crazy on fire. He is scoring Odyssey, by the way.
Yes, right. So yeah, I thought that the directing was fantastic. The acting was amazing. The writing was really super strong. The casting, oh my God, was off the charts. I thought it was fantastic. What did you think? When was the last time you saw this movie?
I watch this at least once a year. Like I'm on it. It's so funny though, but when I saw this in theaters, I walked out and I said I liked it, but I walked in wanting so much more because I grew up as a lover of like Greek mythology. Now I'm not like, I don't have it all memorized and I couldn't sit here and recite whatever, every champion and hero and demigod or whatever, let alone all their storylines. But I grew up loving it nonetheless. The idea of it, and I would read some of the stories. I mean, I named my production company Icarus Burning for a reason. And it's walking in, I was really excited about seeing, this story, the Trojan War, the Iliad, because I was really fascinated with the gods and I wanted to see, the gods represented. And of course, there are no gods in this movie, so to speak. And so walking in, once we got 90% of the way through the movie, I was like, okay, there's not going to be any gods. Like at that point, I finally let go of the possibility. And I walked out and I was like, okay, that was solid. And I don't think I watched it for a few years, but when I went back to it, and I was like, it's pretty good. And the more I kept thinking about it, the more I just started liking it more and more and more. And then over the years, as my expectations have gone away, and I've watched the movie for what it's trying to be, I love this movie so much. I think it's one of the greatest films. And it's for me, it's very addictive. Like I can't get enough of it. Like I watched it last week, in prep, and then I watched it this morning again in prep. I have the director's cut coming. I've watched it before, but I've never owned it. And so the director's cut, I think, has like another 20 minutes. And it's so funny. I think the director's cut has like more nudity. It's got boobs. Like, it's got Helen's boobs. But I think this was the right call. The theatrical edit was the right call to like remove that kind of stuff. Not, because it's whatever, not worthy of a film or whatever. But I think making this a PG-13 story is the right decision. Like, it shouldn't be a bloody film, even though you got spears going through faces. I assume this is PG-13. I would be really surprised if this is not. Let's double check my math here. It's rated R. Anyway, this would have been fine as a PG-13 movie. This feels PG-13 by 2026 standards.
It does.
But it's rated R. Fine. But I think the runtime makes sense. And it's as tight as I think it can be. And the more I've just sat with it, the more I respect it for what it's trying to demonstrate. And I think it's so good for so many reasons. Like, yeah, the casting is bonkers. You got Brendan Gleeson taking, an exit, whatever, an hour into the film, and he's so good. Like, there's nothing Brendan Gleeson can do that isn't just freaking amazing. I believe everything this guy. I honestly believe if Brendan Gleeson wanted to kill people, he could kill so many people. Like, I think he has the capability, even if not the will. I don't think he has that like spirit in him. I'm not saying he looks like a killer. I'm saying I just think he's physically capable of killing so many people. He terrifies me, which is funny because it's not necessarily anything in his physique, right? But there's something about him that I'm like, man, that guy could kill me so fast. But that's one of the other things I love about this movie is it's not filled with these muscle heads, right? It's a bunch of normal looking dudes who are fighting, going to war. And I love that so much because the muscle heads that are used in here are used to kind of demonstrate the greatness of the champions, right? Of the heroes. Like, they're there to demonstrate, like, okay, you think Achilles is small, but he's about to slice and dice all these dudes. This guy who's the scariest man you've ever seen, he's not even going to get a swing off because he's so fast and he's so specific in his strategy. And then same thing with Hector gets his monster, right? Ajax is out there swinging around the biggest tree you've ever seen in your life. And it's a fight, but Hector dominates at the end of the day. And that's cool too. Like, so I love that we just have these very sane, normal looking people. Whereas today, I think so many movies use guys that are juiced up and it loses its humanity. It becomes a little cartoonish in that way. And they're all trying to be these action movies. This isn't really trying to be an action film. It's an action epic for sure. But I don't feel like in its soul, in its spirit, it's trying to be an action film. And that leads into all the discussions and all the non-action storytelling, I think, is just what really hit me in the face as I was preparing. Because it's so funny when we do an episode covering something that I've seen 1,000 times. The moment I know we're going to talk about it, I put it under a different lens and I start analyzing it in a way I've never done before. And so much jumped out to me that I'd always known, but also didn't really appreciate or didn't really jump to the top of my mind, which is all this conversation around like a lot. I mean, obedience to rulers and gods versus like self-ownership, love and immortality, mythology versus reality. And I think watching it lately, that's something that's really jumped out, is this combination or this conflict of mythologizing things versus just looking at things for what they are, which, is why there's no gods in this film. And yet the gods have everything to do with this film. It's men worshiping these things that become their undoing, right? Like, the whole reason they brought the horse in was to honor the gods. These gods that Achilles is constantly telling us your romance with the gods is a one-sided affair. Like, they're not coming to help you. He cuts off, Apollo's head right outside Apollo's temple. And all the men around him are like horrified. And he's like trying to communicate there is no power in these gods. And that I also think he went over to fight in Troy because it was a war. No matter what his mom said, I think he was going. I don't think he really believed in his heart anything she said. I think he went to her because that's his mom and he's going, and why not? Like he just does it to do it maybe. Like I think that's a conversation we needed to hear, not something that he needed to help him decide. Like he respects his mom and that's about the only reason that he went there. But for him, he doesn't really appreciate or respect anything to do with the mythology around his culture. And in that way, we're watching people kind of fight because Hector doesn't either. Hector is just, he mocks Apollo because his Priam, right, his father king, is over here saying like, Apollo's on our side, like we can't lose. And Hector just shoots back. And how many men does Apollo command? He's like, do not mock the gods. He's like, oh God. And everything in Hector wants to mock the gods, but he won't mock his father. That's kind of a line for him. His father's real, even if the gods aren't. And so there's this really fascinating conversation that's happening in all this entire movie. If you just watch it through that lens of gods and rulers and self-ownership, which is the same conversation. Like, are you beholden to yourself? Are you beholden to gods? Are you beholden to your king? Right? Helen, she belongs to Menelaus, or does she belong to herself? Menelaus goes over there to take his wife back. Whereas Paris seems to think you're your own person. And Helen wants to believe that. And so she acts on it. And she comes to finally believe that she is her own person. I think that's a kind of a hidden arc in there. I don't think we ever hear her have that realization out loud. But she certainly acts like it by the end, right? She watches Hector walk off to his death. They don't exchange a single word. But she's staying there while he goes out. She's accepting her responsibility, is what I take from that little exchange, visual exchange. And so, yeah, I look at Helen's story and I look at Achilles, who's fighting for himself. He's not fighting for Agamemnon, right? And there's even that conversation that's happening between Achilles and Patroclus, right? Where Patroclus is wanting to fight and Achilles is trying to get to like, what do you think we're doing out there? And Patroclus is like, soldiers obey. And Achilles is like, you're not getting it. Don't waste your life following some fool's orders. He's talking about his king, right? And he's calling him a fool. And he's trying to beg his cousin, don't waste your life just going to die for someone, just in obedience. That doesn't make sense. And then we have this whole other conversation around love and immortality, right? Achilles is choosing a life of war instead of love, right? He's hoping to live forever. That's his goal, is my name is going to be remembered for eternity. And that's why he's doing everything he's doing. In fact, that's the very first thing that he says to that kid who's going and saying, hey, you got to go fight. What does he say? This Thessalonian you're fighting, he's the largest man I've ever seen. I wouldn't want to fight him.
Oh, yeah.
That is why no one will remember your name.
Mm-hmm.
So he's more than willing to go do everything that no one else is willing to do, to kill the people no one wants to fight against, just because he wants his name to echo forever, or as long as it can. And that's how we open the film, right? Is my God, Sean Bean. Why can't I remember his name? What's Sean Bean's name? This is why I write.
Odysseus.
Odysseus. Thank you for crying out loud. And Odysseus in the voiceover narration opens with, "Will our actions echo across eternity? Will strangers hear our name?" Right? He's saying, "Will we be remembered?" And of course, that's how he closes the film, right? Let them say, "I lived in the time of Hector, tamer of horses." Let them say, "I lived in the time of Achilles." And so he's making this argument that, fine, everyone died here. But there's a whole other argument around the people they're dying for. Are they worthy or not? Because that gets back to Achilles weeping over who he's killing for. He's killing on behalf of Agamemnon, even if he doesn't want to be. And the people that he's killing is for a king who wants nothing but peace. Because these two characters, Agamemnon and Priam, have two entirely different worldviews that are reflected in their goals. Agamemnon is expanding his borders, power, and glory. Priam just wants to stay home. That's it. He wants to have peace and share, the land with his countrymen. And all Achilles can see now is like, I'm killing the peaceful people for a person who wants nothing to do with peace. And through Briseis, and she is such a fascinating character because he goes to kill for her. Achilles goes to kill for Briseis in that tent. He's like, brothers, I have no quarrel with you, but if you don't unhand her, right, I promise you will not see home. And none of those guys in their right mind think they have a shot at killing Achilles. They, of all people, know very well exactly what he's capable of. But what she does is she steps up and says, too many men have died today. If killing is your only talent, then that's your curse. I don't want anyone dying for me today. And what's so beautiful about that sentiment is she's not trying to stop him from killing her countrymen. She's trying to get him from stopping killing his own people. These are people that are there to kill her people. And even those people she's valuing. Every life is valuable. And so Briseis is there to represent and reflect some other way entirely of thinking about humanity and thinking about life. And even as you get towards the end of the film, she's having these conversations with Achilles that really, truly do matter. Why did you choose the love of God? I think you'll find the romance one-sided. And so she's having to come to a realization too about the gods, because what he tells her is the gods envy us because we're mortal, because any second could be our last. And she's asking him, aren't you afraid of death? And he's saying, everyone dies today or 50 years from now. It doesn't matter. So Achilles has this nihilistic quality to him that's being eroded and chipped away by her. And she has this beholding view to the gods that's being chipped away at by him. Love is the only thing worth living and dying for, is the very heart and root of this movie. And it's so beautiful because that's exactly what Priam says. I've gone to war in my lifetime. I fought many wars in my time. Some are fought for land, some for power, some for glory. I suppose fighting for love makes more sense than all the rest. And that's everything. If you're not living and dying for love, then everything else is kind of a fool's errand,
Mm-hmm. That's a great point about Briseis and her interactions with Achilles. I mean, I think all of that is necessary leading up to that scene of him crying over Hector. Right? Like, if not for him, which I think it is for him, but also if not for him, for us as the viewer, to see him like chipped away at a little bit by someone who can chip away at that, and to reveal, like, I guess another layer underneath, or allow him to, and I remember watching it and thinking, why is he telling him, meet me outside in a minute? Mm-hmm. Or like, why is he telling him to wait here for a minute while he goes outside? Huh. And I didn't remember the scene of him crying over Hector. And it's pretty awesome. Like her interactions with him.
It's so good because, and what I really love about the structure of their story is how it leads to the downfall of everything. Because what happens is Achilles is looking to leave now. He's found something that isn't worth killing for, but is worth dying for, right? And Briseis and Achilles are having this conversation. He's asking her, would you leave the gods for me? Would you leave Troy? Would you abandon all of that? And she's asking, Achilles, would you leave killing? Would you abandon this for me? and he's contemplating it. He's like, it seems like he's going to, abandon everything for love. And what happens immediately, and this is why structurally it's so important, is that's exactly when Hector is commanded by his king, who is acting on advice from his religious people, his priests, who are saying the gods favor us, go attack now. Hector leads an army and kills his cousin Patroclus. So while Achilles is distracted by love, his cousin is killed. And it's a betrayal of love. It's like, I can no longer imagine this life of love because what it just cost me is everything to me. It cost me my cousin, who I love so much. And if that's the cost of love, then what good is it, right? And so he goes on his one-man rampage of killing Hector. And the result of that is so bitter and so distressing that what you end up having, of course, is the downfall of Troy itself, because he tries to give peace and grace to Priam, and all these other events unfold. It's a very strong domino effect, but it also leads Achilles to going back into Troy in order to get Briseis. That's all he wants, right? He still wants this thing, and that thing also ends up being the downfall of himself. That's why he dies, is for love. And that's the beauty of it. He ends up not dying to further his name. He ends up dying for love, the one thing that is worth dying for, but it's also the one thing that the one person who said they would die for, that clip that we played, is Paris saying that he would fight and die for love. And Hector's like, you don't know anything about fighting. You don't know anything about love. You who sleeps with so many women and other people's wives. And the moment he gets an opportunity to die for love, he doesn't. He runs away like a coward, which is also ostensibly the reason war breaks out and loses, Troy. If he had died right there for love, maybe we know that Agamemnon was going to attack no matter what. But ostensibly, if he had died there, the city would have been saved, and Helen would have been lost. But the one person who ends up dying for love is the one person who confesses or professes to not want anything to do with it, and is trying to die for himself, for immortality. And then dying for love is actually what gets him his immortality, even if it's through the mythologizing of all the things that aren't real in the first place. Everything that is good gets attributed to the gods, instead of to the people, the men who were fighting, doing the actual bleeding. I don't know. I think it's all wound up tightly in there. I don't think I'm unpacking it exactly right, but I think it's there. And if you watch it a couple of times with these thoughts in mind, you'll hear these conversations start to unfold in a really beautiful, elegant way. Naturally, it's of course all rooted in Homer. But yeah, I don't know. Whatever you can pull out of that, by all means.
No, I loved listening to that. It's all so true, and like the pacing of it, and that you were talking about, and right after this happens, then this happens to upend that, and there's a lot of like antagonistic, like actions that happen that drag everyone to their final place, right? Like like when you mentioned Achilles being distracted by love, and then Hector killing his cousin, and then that leads to killing Hector, and that leads to, Priam coming and asking for his body. Like it's all like, it forces, it pushes the narrative along, everything that happens. It's just really well written. I do like also just the way that Brad Pitt plays Achilles is so delicate and so aggressive at the same time. Because when we first meet him, there is no, I don't see the human. I see like a god, I literally see a god. I see like someone who I know will be fine. He's not going anywhere. He's going to beat everyone. But I see that in his face and the way that he says every line. It's just very cold and very like, here when he tells the kid and no one will remember your name. It's just like so flat and cold. And then that changes like, and as it changes throughout, like when he has these moments, I think maybe the first one that we see is either a little bit when he's like playing with his cousin, when he's jousting with his cousin, but you really see it when he talks to his mother. He just kind of like softens his face a little bit. It's not like what he says doesn't have, weight to it. It still has the same weight, but it's just his face is just softer. I don't know how to explain it. Mm-hmm. And then, his time, the more time he spends with Briseis, you see it a little bit more and a little bit more. And then he has the breakdown moment. And then maybe like one of the last times you see it is like as Briseis is leaving, right, with the king. And then you don't really see it. I guess you do see it when he's talking to Odysseus on the beach too. There's all these moments where he has these like, where you just like love him, where I see the humanity in him. But then when he's fighting, it's just, he's like a god. And I don't think that there's, I'd be hard pressed to name another actor that could do that as well. I'm not saying they couldn't do it. They definitely could. There's plenty of amazing actors that could do something like this, but like to the level that I watched Brad Pitt do it, it's just masterclass. Like it's not anything that I could even put on that I could say out loud. It's just his face changes, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, yeah. And I just thought that was probably like one of my favorite things about the movie was watching how he evolved that character. But also Eric Bana is just fantastic as Hector. I mean, I loved all of the writing for him, and the way that he talked to his father was just like, so I love you, but you're insane kind of thing. And same thing with his brother, with Paris. It's like, I love you, but you're an idiot. You know nothing about any of this stuff that you preach about, So yeah, and just the casting is great. So yeah, anyway, my favorite part was definitely Brad Pitt and his performance there.
He's so good. And I agree. Like, I love Eric Bana's performance. It's very duty bound, and like he's a soldier. And I think he's just reflecting that perfectly. Even though what he truly wants, and that's a really nice thing if you were to watch this movie and analyzing just based on what people want, that'll reveal so much about what the story is really about, right? Hector wants peace, but he's forced to fight. Achilles wants to fight because he wants something else. He wants to live forever. And so he's choosing a life of war instead of one of love. And so everyone wants different things, and the way to get what they want is only through conflict, right? Like, if Hector wants peace, guess what? He's going to have to fight because the war just came to his gates, and if Achilles wants to fight, he's going to have to get through those gates. He's going to have to find a reason to get everyone out. And so there's conflict built into the story through what everyone wants. Agamemnon, of course, wants to rule everything, and he wants to expand his empire, and he wants to be remembered forever. And so there's a really beautiful reflection, mirror aspect to everyone's wants and needs. And the needs are largely different, of course. But yeah, there's so much going on in this movie. I love the production design. I mean, look, those are thousands. I believe those are actually thousands of people out there, like, for the most part. Now, there's some scenes, I believe, that they're using CG, recreations. This is a few years after Lord of the Rings came out, right? And in the first Lord of the Rings, they had, in the very opening shot is like thousands and hundreds of thousands of soldiers out there, fighting. And so we know the technology was certainly available. And I'm pretty sure they used it for some shots, but they still did actually have thousands of soldiers out there. So the scale of this thing feels real because those are real humans out there who were taught how to fight in the correct style, how to fall in the correct style with these weapons, with these shields. The shields are different, right? You have these round shields versus these more squarish things. And so everything's built in a way that there's no choice but to believe it. And it's one of those things where I know it's hard, but I don't think it's less expensive to just do things this way than it is to go and just CG everything. Like it's more of a headache for production, no question. But the results, I think they speak for themselves. Some of these shots, man, these aerials, that aerial of the gates opening and the city flooding with the men, that shot is one of the greatest shots of all time. That is scary good. Yeah, I need to go watch a breakdown of what the hell is going on there, because it's outrageous to go from this huge, it feels like a crane, but I mean, maybe it's a crane, I guess. I don't know what crane could do that.
It wasn't, they didn't do a lot of drone stuff.
No.
Right?
I mean, there's,
in 2004.
Not drones, but they certainly had aerial choppers out there for some of those battle scenes. But for that shot, I don't know what they would, maybe it's a mix of CG or maybe it's a blend of shots. I have no idea how they executed that, because it also looks like it could be a day for night, but it also looks like the lighting is so good on the interior nights of the city that I'm just like, I don't know if that is it looks like day for night on the exterior, but once they get interior, it looks night for night. So if it is all nighttime, are they setting up just a crazy amount of like these HMIs just blasting? I don't know, man. But that's an incredible shot. Wolfgang Petersen. And the production itself, I mean, they built most of Troy. I mean, there's still some CG around Troy, but they built a huge production to make that thing come to life. Yeah, I don't know, man. The scale feels epic, even if, it's partially built and partially not. I think once you have a few thousand people out there, it sells. And it's easy to fill the screen with the right angle. Like, you don't necessarily need 50,000 soldiers out there to make it feel like 50,000. All right. If you lower the angle, like if you're doing this epic shot of troops running across the land, if you lower it at the right angle and you eat up the frame with people blocked in certain spaces, the whole frame is covered in people. Even if, you were to do a top down shot and suddenly it's like, this is mostly land. Well, it's creative blocking and creative, framing, and you can maximize the few people that you do have to really eat up the frame and make it feel overwhelming in that way. And Wolfgang is just incredible. There was actually another movie about Troy that was supposed to come out around this time. I used to follow on Yahoo this guy named Greg's Previews, and unfortunately he ended up passing away from cancer. But at the time, he was tracking two different productions. One was Troy. There was another one that was like Trojan War. It was like the working title or something like that. And so I was really excited at the time because we're going to get two Trojan movies. Like, I'm so. And then the other one I think ended up just canceling after Wolfgang did his thing. Maybe they just bowed out. I don't know. But yeah, I amazing movie. I just love this thing. I will scrub through it. My notes are so not organized, so I'll scrub through and see if there's anything else I didn't really cover. But any final thoughts or things you want to call out?
No. Nothing else that I want to add to it. I mean, that I can't add that you already added. The scale feels amazing. The acting's incredible. The writing is great. Again, I just wasn't a fan of the score. Honestly, it just feels dated is what it feels like, which is okay because it's 22 years old. So it's going to be dated. But, I don't know. There are plenty of films from this era that don't sound dated to me like that. I think the sound design itself is fantastic. I just wasn't a huge fan of the score. But other than that, it's just like, one for the ages for sure. And I enjoyed pretty much every moment of it. I love what you said too about them using size almost as a weakness, right? Not as a weakness, but just like to communicate that size, that, we would think, in these times, if you're bigger and you're stronger, you win. And yet they cast Brad Pitt as Achilles to show that, no, it's not about size. It's about skill. And you can be a smaller person, a smaller man, and defeat someone twice your size because you can be faster. You can, you can move faster, or you utilize different skills that larger person could never have, and they set that up very well at the beginning. And then, as you pointed out, Hector's battle with that gigantic human wielding that huge hammer-like thing, and he defeats him, right? And I think that's super important, not just to show that Hector is strong and a very good fighter, but also to reinforce what we saw at the beginning, Achilles killing that massive guy, that it's not about size, that it's about skill. And that's one of the reasons why Achilles is emotional about Hector, because he sees a skillful artist in that he had defeated. So anyway, I think it's amazing.
So good. The last couple little things I wanted to touch on, very small, and this is very much on the writing side, is when Achilles rides out to Troy to kill Hector and he's standing outside the gates. As he rides up, the archers on the battlements draw their bows. And Hector says no. And I love this. That's the obvious way to take out someone you can't kill, is pump them full of arrows, which is how he ends up dying, right? But what I love about it is it's a great demonstration of an idea and a choice. Because the idea, right, is just kill this guy and you don't have to face him. And he's making a choice of honor, right? I'm not going to do that. And so he tells the archers no. And what I love specifically is the archers do it automatically instead of being told by someone, right? This is their job. This is what they're there to do. And so they draw their bows. So by doing that, no one's character takes a hit by giving them the order. Because if you say, draw your bows, right? If the king does that, he loses some honor. Because we're like, you're just going to kill this guy for trying to avenge his cousin? Instead, Hector's character is elevated. And so he gets to elevate himself by saying, no, we're not going to kill him that way. I'm going to make a decision to go and fight this guy. And so I just love the silent call to just have the archers draw their bows instead of having either Hector contemplate it like, draw your bows, wait. No. Just boom. And visually, it's already communicated to the audience. We know exactly why they're doing what they're doing. And we also understand his decision to turn, to make them stand down. And then the other thing I love, that fight between Achilles and Hector is so good. That's such an incredible fight. It's got to be up there all time. Like fight sequences, one-on-one fight sequences, man. And what I love too is the way it's layered through their tools. Right? They start fully geared up and they slowly lose their layers, right? Toss their helmets, which is a character moment, right? Achilles is like, want to make sure you know who you're fighting. And so Achilles, Hector does likewise. He throws his helmet away. He's like, I didn't know. I thought it was you. And he's like, tonight, you will wander the underworld, blind, deaf, and dumb, and all the dead will know this is Hector, fool who thought he killed Achilles. Like, what a great line. He's so full of rage, but it's so poetic. It's coming out in this way that speaks to his intelligence and yet still reflects the brutishness that's within him, right? This rage. And that's beautiful. That's hard to execute on a writing level. To do both of those things, to show the animal and the poet, fuck me, man.
And it's great. It's great for us as viewers to be able to see their faces while they're battling. So like, you're sitting there in the writer's room, or as a writer, you're sitting down, you're thinking, okay, I'm writing a movie with Brad Pitt in it. How do we watch their emotional reactions to things? And that one move that Achilles does where he points, hits the shield with the tip of his sword and then just hangs there, like.
And he really does hang there,
amazing.
because we cut to Hector recovering. We cut to Andromache in the battlements on watching for a hot minute. We just said it's her, Helen. I think it's Andromache, but we sit on her for a while and then cut back to Achilles. Finally, he's still there. He's waiting for Hector to make the next move. And of course, that little sound effect of the ringing of the sword still there.
That's what I'm saying. Like the sound design is so strong there. So strong there. So, and you're right. There is music there. There's drums. But it just doesn't get in the way. It like, I think that's maybe why I didn't really notice it, because I'm just, it's almost like a dance to this beat that's happening. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then when hits happen, also hits on the drums are happening. And it's just like, it's beautiful. So awesome.
It's there to like, it pulls our heartbeats up. Like we know this is emergent and this is like unavoidable. And here we are, the drumbeat of war, but it's a war of two men. It's not a war of armies. And it's just so, and then as the fight wears on, right? It's like, okay, they start their spears. We're going to attack with our spears. Let's see your spear work, right? And then the spears get discarded and it's like, okay, now it's shields. How do we work with our shields? And then swords come out. And then the shields go away, right? And now it's just swords. And it's just revealing how tactical both of these guys are, how fast, how smart, how determined. It's all in conversation with each other. Like it's a conversation through fighting, I think, of you're not going to outsmart me. You're not going to get under me. And then even whenever Achilles has the upper hand, he doesn't take it, right? The stone. Get up, Hector. I will not let a stone steal my glory. Like that's so beautiful, because it's not just I'm going to kill you. It's you're going to know I killed you because I'm better. Oh, what a great conversation. Yeah. And the other thing I think I wanted to just touch is Hector dies there, and his death hurts the most because of everyone in this entire movie. He is the only one whose desire was peace. Mm-hmm. He was honoring his king, protecting his brother. He is the only one who did all the right things, and he died because of everyone else's foolishness, everyone's worship over gods, everyone's worship over power, and Achilles' worship of glory. And he wanted none of those things. He just wanted to raise his kids with his wife. And that made his death so much more impactful, because we all understood that. He was doing everything possible in his power to prevent anyone else from dying, and it cost him his life. And I think that's just a powerful statement.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, it's like a tragedy, it's one of the reasons why this is such a timeless kind of story. It's so, we look at these things and we think how barbaric, and yet, how much has changed. Yeah. In so many ways. So,
and I think that's why it's so important to remove the gods from this story.
Great point.
Because if you leave the gods in, all the people feel like puppets. They don't feel autonomous at all. But if you remove the gods physically and keep them as an idea, now they're choosing to be puppets. And that's a completely different story that you're telling at that point, and one that you can now reflect on through people's decisions and conversations, through Hector, through Achilles, trying to convince their own, there are no gods. It's just us. And no one will listen, because no one believes that they have the power to choose their own destinies, instead of being beholden to, the gods' decisions. Yeah. Anyway, that's a conversation I really could have for another hour. Because
and the other,
we still do
the
that.
last thing too, is like another reason to love Hector is like after he saves his brother has the battle with Menelaus, right? Who, God, you're totally right. Brendan Gleeson, like the look he gives when he puts his helmet on to go fight Paris is like, oh, Paris is going to die. That boy going to die. And then the war has started. The battle has started, I would say. And and he rides his brother through the army to safety. And you're sitting there thinking, oh, of course, royalty is going to let everybody die, whatever. And then he comes back out and he fights with his men. And he's ready to die with his men. And it's just, I don't know how many, people would do that, either then or now or whatever. But like, it was just such a beautiful thing because you think they're riding off away and then he comes back and it's just so beautiful. And then he ends up beating that huge, massive guy. But I just thought that was really awesome statement about who he is.
Agreed, man. Nice. So with all that said, let's get into our recommendations. What are you going to recommend this fine day?
So I was trying to like figure out what to recommend, and I can't really recommend another film right now. There's just nothing that I've seen that I like is inspiring to me right now. So I'm just going to recommend something that I'm going to recommend an album from a band that I've recommended before because it's just really speaking to me. And today is the Grammys and they're nominated for 2 Grammys, which is wild. It's like, this is a band that 4 years ago, nobody in the world had heard of this band. And now I'm going to nominate Take Me Back to Eden from Sleep Token, the band Sleep Token, who I recommended several weeks back. Because I just cannot get enough of this band. And the more that I listen to them, the more I am absolutely demolished by everything that they do. And it's the kind of music that I wish I could make. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. It's like, I've made music for 30 years and I know how to make certain kinds and I know what I like and what I don't like. And I can play multiple instruments and I know my way around a computer and around a bunch of synthesizers, whatever. And yet I listen to anything this band puts out and it just is like, that is what I hear in my soul, not even in my head. If I could put my soul into music, it's this band and everything they do. And they don't do interviews. They don't talk in their shows or anything like that. And yes, they're metal, right? But there's so much more than that. And the more I listen to them, the more I just cannot get enough of them. And I hope that they win tonight. I really do. At least one of the 2 Grammys that they're nominated for. Because that would be absolutely, completely bonkers if they did. And I will lose my mind. It's kind of like if your team were to win the Super Bowl when last year they went 1-15, you know what I mean? And then this year they win the Super Bowl. It's just like that. And, where you just like lose your mind. You can't believe this is happening. So anyway, I'm going to recommend Take Me Back to Eden. That album.
Very cool. I'll give it a listen. Yep. I'll give it a listen, Todd. That's a pretty strong endorsement. I'm going to recommend Edith Hamilton's Mythology. If you're someone who enjoys Greek mythology, but you don't really know much about it, and you would like some kind of compendium or source to help, ground you a little bit, this is a solid one. It's kind of one of the foundational ones. She, back in like 1942 or something like that, went and gathered everything she could find about Greek mythology, and she tried to distill it down into one book, so that, you could, and I think there's Norse mythology in there. There's a little bit others, but it's primarily Greek. And it's a really great way to just familiarize yourself with some of these heroes and the gods and demigods and some of the big stories. And so, yeah, if you're curious, I've been picking away at it for the last year. Someone recommended it to me. I'd never heard of it. I was more familiar with like Bullfinch's mythology. And so I'm picking my way through it, and it's solid. It's a nice looking book. It's a nice layout, nice graphics. So, and it's dense. It's a big book. And so, yeah, if you're someone who's like, yeah, I wouldn't mind dropping whatever it is, $20-$30 on a book to, look at some Greek stuff, then do that. Okay, so stay tuned for next week. We see what's out in theaters. And we take a look at Sam Raimi's new horror film. I think it's a horror film, Send Help. And I'm excited. I think when Raimi is doing horror is when he's my favorite. Like, I love Drag Me to Hell, love the Evil Deads, and I love his Spider-Mans. But this I'm excited about. It's Rachel McAdams, who for me can do no wrong. And so, yeah, I'm excited to take a look at that. Send Help. And if you're enjoying the show, don't forget, subscribe, drop us a review. And if you want to comment on this episode, you can do that at thepestlepodcast.com/Troy.
Yeah, but you have to type it like he said it, or else you won't get to it. And our quote of the day is from John Steinbeck. This is a beautiful quote. Good one here. All war is a symptom of man's failure as a thinking animal. Very true. I mean, I got nothing to add to that because, I mean, anything, you could think through anything, but a lot of times we let our emotions get ahead of us.
Your emotions and just lack of, I don't know, gamesmanship on some point. Like, I was listening to an old speech from one of our old CEOs, Byron Reese, and he was just talking about how in the future he imagines there's not really going to be much war because as we progress and gain, more incentives of the market, creating value, iPods and monetary value, and we start to put more emphasis on our business achievements instead of our, war victories, then more and more people will choose business, as opposed to war. And the more expensive it gets to take down a city, the more disincentive there is towards war. So like, he comments about if you were to take out Tokyo, that's trillions of dollars, worth of trade. And so there's a lot of incentive for Japan to no longer wage war. And the people who don't appreciate that are the people who are failing as a thinking animal, as Steinbeck would say. And the more you start to realize the value there is in trade, the more you begin to understand that there's no value in taking lives. And in fact, you only lose value. This is something that I would put under Bastiat's theory of the broken window fallacy, the idea that if you destroy a window, you've created business. Like now you get to pay some window maker, glass maker to come and replace your window. And look at that, you stimulated the economy. And that's of course a dumb thing to think, because what about the person who owned the window having to spend money on a window that he already had instead of spending money on a new pair of shoes? So now instead of having one extra pair of shoes, what you actually have is one less pair of shoes and still the same window. Like you've done nothing to actually stimulate the economy. That glass maker could have been making glass for a new building in the long term, right? And so there's
just displacement of wealth. It's
not even It's not displacement. It's destruction. It
well,
goes
you're
away.
spending it either way. Was what I'm saying.
That's what they think. That's what they think. You're not spending. You would have spent it on something productive instead of something destructive, right? The window has been destroyed and never coming back. And so this idea of trade, replacing war is what you want. A man dying isn't creating anything new ever again, right? He's dead now. Mm-hmm. And so war is a destruction of life, destruction of property. And if Agamemnon had been smarter, he'd been like, you know what? I don't need Troy. I'll just make a deal with them. And then instead of losing 40,000 whatever Greeks to trying to kill them, I'll have 40,000 Greeks who can now trade with them. And we'll get new stuff and we'll get cool stuff. But men failing as a person who can think is never they just value death and their own name and aggrandizement so much. Yeah, anyway, again, another one of those things.
And Helen.
Yeah. So anyway, that's I think enough ranting from me for the day before I really get going.
I feel you. Well, man, this is a lot. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if there's a film you'd like to see us talk about, let us know. Maybe one day we'll cover it. Please recommend us to friends, subscribe, review. It all helps a ton. Until next time, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch some movies. Yeah, it shakes. So good.